class, this is lesson 27, functions and files. Now, in the last couple videos we talked about functions and how they work, and now we're going to add a little more information to the functions. Alright, so to get started, you start off with your comments and your name, the description of the program, and the date. And then, of course, you have your headers. And notice we have IOStream, which you're used to, and string, which you're also used to, and then file stream, because we're talking about dealing with files again. We're going to need file stream header, okay? And using namespace. Now, remember, we're talking about functions. So do you see int main? You do not, because you see a function. This is a function to determine the letter grade. And this is the definition of the function. So this is what the function does. And then here's another function. Determine the average. This program lets you take a file that has a bunch of student scores, adds them up, gets the average, and then tells you the letter grade. Okay, so that's what this program does. Here's another function that actually prints the result on the screen. So that's all this function does, is printing. Here's a function that gets the grades from the file. See, while it's not the end of file, go to the file, get the grade, add it to a sum, then count the number of grades, the number of exams you had. And you do this until this is the end of file, and then that loop ends. That's a function. Here's a little note about functions. Currently, we have been passing values to a function and then getting a value back, and when we get the value back, it's called a return value. Unless, of course, we had a void function, and a void function doesn't return anything. This is called pass by value. When you use a return statement, it's pass by value. There is another way to get this done. It's called pass by reference. This means we share a variable from main to our function. This is good because when a change takes place to the variable inside the function, main knows it happened. So you're sharing a variable between the two. You share a variable that you have in main and one in the function. There's no need to return the variable's value to main using return because it knows about the value change, okay? When you are passing values using files, if you're using a file, which we are this time, you want to pass by reference. All right, so here's another one. This is a void function, and this is just to check to see can the system find the actual input file? Can it find the file? So it checks. If the I file is not open, it says, hey, the input file can't be found. It puts that on the screen, and that way you know it can't find your input file. So this is just a little function that checks to make sure it can find the input file. And here is a function to close the file when the work is done. So you call this function and it'll close that file. Look, and now we are finally at main. If you notice, main starts being mostly calls to functions. When you start learning about functions, main will mostly just call other functions. Now, in this case, we put all our functions before main, and that's okay. If you don't like that style, you could just put the name, the first line of the function, and then put it underneath main down here, and then put the line, the first line, plus all the definition of the function. That's a choice that you can make. All right, so if we go over main, then we will say that int main, this is the main function, we'll use files this time to read our grades into a program and create an input file variable ifile. Okay, so here's our input file stream, right? That's our data type, and the variable name is ifile. Okay, data type is input file stream, variable is ifile. You want to open a file for input, and we named the file grades.txt. So ifile.open, and we named it grades.txt. Now you're going to have to create this txt file with some grades in it. I created one earlier using Notepad. You want to use something like Notepad that doesn't have any kind of background information. And let's see, where is it? Well, Notepad. N-O-T-E. Notepad. There we go. And I want to open the last one I had. Here it is, okay? And I put it under courses in the fall of 2019, and then I have comms 2104, and I created my notepad grades, and I'll show you what it looks like. Here's a list of grades that someone could have made, okay? You could put however many you want because the program will check, and when it gets to the end of file, it'll stop reading and finish the program, okay? So put however many you want, put quite a few so you could test, make sure the math is right, all right? So once you create this, you close it and you do a Control-C on it. You go to it. Let me go to it. I put it in comms 24 right here. I can right-click and do a copy, or I could do a Control-C, either way. But I make a copy of it, all right? And then I go into this folder here at the top, open that, and then I do a Control-V or right-click and paste. Now, as you can see, I didn't really copy it because I already pasted it here. And now, notice, it's in here with my source file, okay, my C++ source. There's my source file, my actual program, and there's my TXT grades file so that this can easily read that. They have to be together, all right? So now they're together. Now this program could read that file. So I'm canceling that. Now, all right, so I've got that file created, and now this iFile open should be able to open it and read those grades, okay? Now look, this is our first call to a function, and I say file check. Remember, that's where that function up here, file check, here it is, file check. It checks to make sure it can find that file, all right? So that's what that function does. That's the first function. Then here's our declaring our variables right here. We declared our variables. And now we're going to read in an unknown number of exams from our input file. We don't know how many exams the input file would have. So that's why we set up, we say get grades, sum, grade, number of exams, and iFile. This, get grades, remember, get grades is a function. We had it above. So let me go find it. Get grades. Here it is. Integer, get grades, double. See that ampersand, that little and? Sum, double, ampersand, grade, and integer, number of exams. We're going to return that. But we also need main to know these values, right? As this little loop will read the file, take the grade, add the grade to a sum, then say add 1. So we know how many exams. And it does the loop again, grabs the grade, adds grade to the total, then that's 2 exams. And it goes through our whole list in our file until it gets to the end of file and it quits this loop. And then we'll know how many exams we had and a total. All right, so this gets the grades. Now the reason we have this little ampersand right here is because it's saying put this in a memory location that both this function and main can read. All right, so the main can read this memory location with that value. So whatever this is, the main can read it. And whatever this is, main can read it. That's what that little ampersand in front does. It allows main to read it and the function to read it, okay? So that's all that is. This is pass by, right here, pass by reference, okay? That's what we're doing. And we also have return. So that's pass by value. Pass by reference are these little ampersands in front of the variable. And pass by value is right here where we use the return statement. We can only do one return, so if you need more than one, you need to pass by reference. And if you're using files, you need to pass by reference, okay? All right. Pass by value is using the return statement. Pass by reference, you use the little ampersand inside your parameters of your function. Okay. So, back down to our program. Notice, we get grades, that we just saw that one. Now we're going to get average. we figured out the sum in this function, and we figured out the number of exams in this function. So now we're going to figure out the average in this function. So if we go back to the top, we'll see that that function divides sum by the number of exams to get the average. So this when it returns a value, it'll be put in AVG, average, okay? Same with L grade or letter grade. It's going to equal whatever is returned from this function. Remember this function at the very top? Get letter grade function, right? So L grade, it says if average is greater than 90, the L grade is going to be an A. And then we return the L grade. So it could be, L grade could be a B, it could be a C, depending on what the average is. And then it returns that L grade, and it goes back to main. And now that L grade is whatever it was when it went through the function. And then look here, output. Guess what this function did? Output put it to the screen. Remember, if we look up here, it was a void. It was a void function, if I can find it. Here it is, output. And we output the average, AVG, comes from main. Outputs on the screen. Character L grade, so letter grade, and it puts L grade or letter grade on the screen. That's all that function does. It doesn't return anything. It puts it on the screen. So we go back, and then after we do the output, then we close our file. Remember, that's a function that closes the file. Right above int main, remember, close file, ifile.close. That closes the file. And then that's the end of our program. All right, I hope this helps you, and I hope you enjoy learning about functions and files.